Welcome back to our channel on this beautiful, crisp morning. Today, we dive deep into the treacherous waters of Genoa City, where dark secrets and ruthless vendettas are colliding in spectacular fashion. Stay with us as we unpack the latest explosive developments that threaten to tear powerful families apart. The sudden, chilling silence surrounding Matt Clark's abrupt disappearance strikes Phyllis Summers like a physical blow, leaving her completely unmoored in a sea of suffocating dread. The eerie emptiness of his apartment, devoid of his usual chaotic energy, serves as a terrifying confirmation that her worst fears have materialized. Her mind, perpetually wired for suspicion and survival, immediately spirals into the darkest corners of Genoa City's elite machinations, her razor-sharp intuition pointing directly toward the monolithic power of the Newman family. The profound sense of isolation that washes over her is paralyzing, a stark reminder of the dangerous game she has been playing by aligning herself with a man whose past is as blood-soaked as his present. Every ticking second amplifies her escalating panic, transforming her initial worry into a blinding, desperate paranoia that threatens to consume her entirely. Phyllis has never been one to passively accept defeat, but the sheer magnitude of Victor Newman's potential involvement casts a dark, paralyzing shadow over her usual fiery resolve. She wrestles violently with a toxic cocktail of deep-seated guilt and fierce, almost irrational devotion to the missing man. She knows intimately that Matt is a dangerous, unpredictable predator, but he is her dangerous predator, a kindred spirit in a city that constantly demands their subjugation. The agonizing thought that Victor has simply swatted Matt away like a mere nuisance, erasing him from existence without a trace, ignites a blazing inferno within her soul. This is no longer just about finding a missing lover. It is a desperate crusade to reclaim her own agency and prove that she cannot be manipulated or silenced by the untouchable patriarch of the Newman Empire. Driven by this frantic, explosive energy, Phyllis relentlessly tracks down Adam Newman at the upscale athletic club, her eyes blazing with unshed tears and unyielding, venomous accusations. The opulent, relaxed atmosphere of the club stands in jarring, almost grotesque contrast to the unraveling state of her psyche as she marches directly into his personal space. She launches into a blistering, unfiltered interrogation, her voice trembling with a mixture of terror and rage as she demands immediate answers about Matt's whereabouts. She accuses the entire Newman family of orchestrating a sinister, coordinated conspiracy to eliminate the man she cares for, desperately searching Adam's face for any flicker of guilt or complicity. Her vulnerability is laid bare, a raw, bleeding wound that she weaponizes in her frantic attempt to shatter the impenetrable Newman facade. Adam, nursing his drink with a chilling, sociopathic detachment, meets her hysterical desperation with a formidable wall of icy, calculated mockery. He views Phyllis not as a legitimate threat, but as a pathetic, broken creature clinging desperately to a known psychopath, finding a cruel amusement in her agonizing unraveling. With masterful psychological manipulation, he expertly deflects her barrage of accusations, insisting with a cold smirk that if his father had indeed orchestrated Matt's vanishing act, he was entirely excluded from the grand, malevolent design. Adam's callous indifference and brutal psychoanalysis of her toxic attachments do not deter her. Instead, his cruel amusement only serves to pour high-octane gasoline on the blazing inferno of Phyllis's paranoia, solidifying her belief that the Newmans are hiding a monstrous truth. Realizing with sickening clarity that Adam is either a clueless, discarded pawn or a masterful, remorseless liar, Phyllis pivots her destructive momentum directly toward the beating heart of the Newman Empire. Her ominous journey to the sprawling Newman Ranch is fraught with a suffocating tension, the grand estate feeling less like a familial home and more like a heavily fortified, inescapable fortress guarding decades of dark, buried secrets. She marches into Victor's opulent domain, her every step fueled by a desperate, consuming need to rescue the man she has inexplicably tethered her fractured soul to. The heavy, oppressive aura of Victor's power threatens to crush her resolve, but the terrifying silence of Matt's absence propels her forward into the lion's den, ready to risk everything for a sliver of the truth. The ensuing confrontation between Phyllis and Victor is a masterful, terrifying display of psychological warfare, a catastrophic collision of her frantic, bleeding emotional vulnerability and his impenetrable, monolithic authority. Victor sits behind his massive desk, like the ultimate, untouchable puppet master, his expression a chilling mask of stoic superiority that betrays absolutely nothing. He remains infuriatingly tight-lipped, refusing to offer her the desperate satisfaction of a direct confession or even a flicker of empathetic acknowledgement. His silence is deafeningly loud, a heavy, suffocating blanket of implication that forces Phyllis to confront the horrifying reality of his absolute, unchecked control over the lives of everyone in Genoa City. She screams her accusations into the void of his indifference, her desperation echoing uselessly against the walls of his empire. Then, with the subtle, terrifying grace of an apex predator toying with its prey, Victor drops just enough veiled, cryptic hints to confirm Phyllis's most horrifying, deeply buried suspicions. He speaks in chilling riddles about the absolute necessity of loyalty, the severe consequences of broken agreements, and the steep, unforgiving price of blatant disobedience. The realization crashes over Phyllis with a suffocating physical weight. Victor has indeed executed his most sinister threat, caging Matt like a wild animal for daring to defy his clandestine, authoritative mandates. The sheer, unchecked omnipotence of Victor Newman leaves Phyllis trembling uncontrollably, not just with a profound, burning rage, but with a chilling, existential terror regarding her own vulnerability in the face of such godlike power. Refusing to be permanently paralyzed by this overwhelming fear, Phyllis channels her terror into a meticulous, clandestine, and highly illegal investigation, breaking into Matt's abandoned, silent apartment under the cover of darkness. The eerie stillness of the room mocks her racing heart as she tears through his personal belongings with a manic, obsessive precision. Her hands shake violently as she searches for any hidden breadcrumb, any overlooked anomaly that might lead her to the absolute truth of his sudden captivity. Her desperation transforms her into a relentless, unstoppable force, entirely unwilling to accept the sanitized, authoritative narrative dictated by the Newman patriarch, determined to uncover the raw, bleeding reality of Matt's terrifying fate. Amidst the overturned furniture and the scattered, chaotic remnants of Matt's disrupted life, Phyllis makes a monumental discovery that irrevocably changes the entire trajectory of her dangerous crusade. Hidden away from prying eyes, she unearths a concealed personal diary alongside a discarded, highly sophisticated tracking device, providing her with the undeniable, tangible proof of Victor's intricate orchestration and Matt's forced subjugation. Clutching the damning evidence tightly to her chest, Phyllis makes a silent, unbreakable, and terrifying vow in the darkness of the empty room. She will tear down the mighty Newman empire brick by brick to expose the truth and rescue her lover, completely unaware of the monstrous, catastrophic forces already gathering momentum in the shadows. Miles away from Phyllis's frantic, desperate search, the brutal reality of Victor's vengeance unfolds as a sterile, claustrophobic nightmare for the imprisoned Matt Clark. The maximum security psychiatric facility is a terrifying labyrinth of harsh fluorescent lights, suffocating padded walls, and the absolute systematic stripping of his human autonomy. Matt, a dangerous man who has always thrived on ultimate control and psychological manipulation, finds himself entirely at the mercy of the very institutional system he has spent his life exploiting and evading. His initial panic is a visceral, primal response to being caged like a rabid beast, his mind thrashing violently against the chemical restraints and the impenetrable, locked doors that separate him from the outside world. However, the sheer, unadulterated brutality of his forced confinement acts as a dark, twisted catalyst, rapidly stripping away any lingering pretense of his recent redemption and violently awakening the dormant, sociopathic beast within his fractured psyche. The initial waves of suffocating panic seamlessly morph into a cold, calculating, and infinitely dangerous rage that burns with the intensity of a dying star. He realizes with chilling clarity that Victor Newman did not merely imprison him, Victor intentionally humiliated him, stripping him of his dignity and his power. The burning, obsessive desire for absolute vengeance becomes his sole focus, a dark, consuming obsession that sharpens his fractured mind and meticulously prepares him for the ultimate, bloody retaliation against his omnipotent captor. It is within this desolate, heavily medicated purgatory that fate orchestrates a terrifying meeting of two deeply fractured, incredibly dangerous, and highly motivated minds. While navigating the heavily guarded, echoing corridors of the psych ward, Matt's predatory gaze scans the sterile environment, only to lock eyes with the infamous Patty Williams. Patty, a tragically disturbed woman whose own severe mental illness has been routinely weaponized and exploited by Genoa City's elite, instantly recognizes a kindred, malevolent spirit in the newly arrived Matt. Their unexpected encounter is not merely a coincidence of institutionalization, but a terrifying, cosmic alignment of mutual, burning hatred and shared, devastating trauma at the hands of the city's most powerful families. Patty Williams is far from the helpless, delusional victim the outside world perceives her to be. Beneath her unpredictable, erratic, and often childlike exterior lies a cunning, strategic brilliance honed by years of surviving and manipulating the asylum system. She is acutely, dangerously aware of the facility's hidden vulnerabilities, possessing an encyclopedic, flawless knowledge of the guards' shifting routines, the architectural blind spots, and the systemic flaws of her prison. When she looks at the seething, furious Matt Clark, she does not see a fellow broken inmate. She sees the raw, brute physical force and the ruthless inside knowledge absolutely necessary to execute the impossible and break free from their sterile hell. The unholy alliance they forge in the dark, whispering shadows of the psychiatric ward, is a chilling, unprecedented fusion of unpredictable madness and meticulous, cold-blooded calculation. It is a partnership born from a mutual, desperate, and all-consuming need to watch their wealthy, powerful oppressors burn to the ground. Patty outlines a daring, breathtakingly complex escape plan with terrifying, lucid clarity, her fractured mind operating on a singular, high-frequency wavelength of pure, unadulterated vengeance. Matt, instantly recognizing the sheer, undeniable genius buried within her madness, eagerly aligns his own dark, violent ambitions with hers, their whispered, secretive conversations forming the lethal blueprint for a catastrophic, world-ending return to the streets of Genoa City. To cement this terrifying union, Matt brings the ultimate, devastating leverage to the table, a deeply buried, explosive secret concerning Victor Newman, a piece of classified information so destructive it possesses the power to dismantle the entire Newman legacy overnight. Matt realizes that merely escaping the physical walls of the asylum is only the first, rudimentary step. Ultimate survival and true vengeance require a weapon capable of neutralizing Victor's omnipotent reach entirely. He shares this explosive, highly guarded secret with Patty, solidifying their dark pact and intertwining their destinies. They are no longer just desperate prisoners seeking a fleeting freedom. They are the harbingers of absolute doom, meticulously preparing to unleash a biblical, inescapable reckoning upon the very families who so callously discarded them. As the sterile, fortified walls of the asylum strain to contain the brewing, catastrophic storm, the atmosphere across Genoa City grows thick with an impending, suffocating sense of dread. Phyllis Summers, armed with her undeniable hard-won proof, is marching blindly toward a catastrophic collision course with Victor Newman's insurmountable, ruthless power, her relentless pursuit of the truth, threatening to ignite a war she cannot possibly win. Simultaneously, behind locked steel doors and heavily barred windows, Matt and Patty finalize the lethal, intricate details of their imminent escape, their combined madness forming a weapon of mass destruction. The countdown to absolute, unmitigated devastation has officially begun, leaving the powerful residents of Genoa City blissfully, tragically, unaware of the monsters preparing to break free and exact their bloody revenge. Will Phyllis manage to expose Victor's sinister machinations before the psych ward walls crumble, or will Matt and Patty's unholy, terrifying alliance drown the entire city in an inescapable, suffocating tide of madness and retribution?